Good morning and welcome. Thank you all for being here today at our annual NYU Alumni Weekend and Parents' Day. I am so excited to be surrounded by so many members of the NYU community, from the honorees this morning of the Per Stare Society of the 50th anniversary class. Let's give that 50th anniversary class a warm welcome. To parents of the youngest generation of NYU's family, our college freshmen, welcome. My name's Heather Canaday, and I am so proud to serve as your NYU Alumni Association president. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for being here. Today, we have the very distinct privilege of welcoming a man who I have grown to love over this past year and a half. I am so happy to introduce President Andrew Hamilton and talk a little bit about him and his plan for NYU's future. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from President Andy Hamilton, about his priorities for the future of our great university. As many of you know, Andy comes to us from Oxford University, where he served as Vice Chancellor for 6 years. He's also the former provost of Yale, and prior to that was on the faculties of the University of Pittsburgh and Princeton. He's a man of great intelligence, vision, personal warmth, and energy, and he's already made great strides in his commitment to affordability and diversity and inclusion in the past 18 months of his presidency, and these are values that I'm sure all of us share with him today. Since Andy and his wife Jenny came to NYU in January of 2016, they've energized our alumni and parents across countries, continents, and the world, from Washington, D.C. to London to Shanghai. Have you all visited every single site yet, or we're getting there? Almost. In each place that they've visited, Andy and Jenny have spent a great deal of time, in his words, listening and learning. That's critical. And talking with people from every quarter of NYU about their questions, concerns, and aspirations. And he's already taken what he's learned and applied it into tangible ways in NYU and in our broader community. A leader of such caliber, with such an extraordinary skill set, is a huge asset to our university. Under his leadership in the coming years, this school holds great promise for our growth and trajectory and success. I look forward to hearing more about his priorities for this year and years to come, and I'm sure you all do as well. So without further ado, the main man of the event today, President Andrew Hamilton.
Thank you very much. Heather, thank you very much indeed for that warm introduction. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here. A wonderful weekend. The weather could not be better. Blue sky and sunshine. Jenny and I were at breakfast this morning with the class of '67 and many earlier classes as well. And it was I commented to them that this is just their memory of NYU. The sun always shone. The sky was always blue. It was wonderful for us. Jenny, who's sitting over there, my wife Jenny, and we've just begun our second academic year at NYU, so things are still fairly new. This is a large, complex university, which I'll get onto in a few moments. But the Alumni Weekend is a wonderful opportunity for us to meet all of you and to see that sense of connection, tradition, loyalty that exists so strongly at NYU, and to meet, as we did this morning at breakfast, an alumnus of the class of 1939, Lester Wolf. And Lester, I don't think he's here now, but former congressman, and Lester will turn 100 later this year, and he still has a full head of hair. And that's something that I pay great attention to. It convinces me that NYU has much going for it, or certainly for its alumni. What I wanted to do in the next half an hour is just to give you a sense of what I see as the core priorities of NYU. I am very cognizant that I stand between you and lunch, and that's always a dangerous place to be. But I wanted, and I will go quite fast. You know, I'm not going to talk about detail. This isn't a setting for detail. But I'm very happy to talk afterwards or in the coming weeks with any of you who have particular issues or things you want to discuss with me. For me, standing here is a rather wonderful feeling, sending shivers down my back, because it was just over a year ago that I stood on this very stage with a room full of NYU friends and supporters for my inauguration. And I had a chance at that inauguration to lay out my vision for NYU, coming from Yale and Oxford, as I've done recently, my vision for NYU. And what I did was to particularly focus on 6 core strategic priorities, things that I felt were critical: affordability, diversity, academic excellence, sustainability, global interactions, and science and innovation. And I'll touch on each of those very quickly. This is a visual presentation, so I hope you'll enjoy it and forgive me if we go a little fast. But let me just say, at that point, I very much made a number of statements, and one of them is here, and I just want to read it. How do we lock in and improve all we have built? This university has been on a remarkable trajectory over the past several decades, but we need to lock it in while sustaining our amazing institutional trajectory. The search for the solution must begin with hard questioning and self-knowledge. We must know about ourselves so that we can build for the future. And as I said, I laid out 6 key strategic priorities. This representation is meant to represent the London Underground map. So, you know, you can see there's, any of you who remember getting from King's Cross to Waterloo, you'll remember these maps. Let me begin, and again, I'll be fast and move quickly, but I want to make certain key points. Affordability. Very early on, it became clear to me that this had to be a very key priority. NYU was too often the poster child for the expense of college education in the 21st century. And so we set ourselves a goal. The first thing we did was to freeze the cost of room and board. The second, and you can see on this graph, we have kept the cost of tuition, the extent of increases in tuition to their lowest level in more than 20 years. That shows you the passage of time and the percentage increase. Of course, we would love to be able to reduce tuition. We'd love that to be a negative number, but here is a reality, and we'll come back to realities again and again this afternoon, in that NYU is a tuition-dependent university. We do not have a large endowment like Yale or Harvard or Princeton. And so we have to ensure that excellence in our education is not then diminished by an insufficient level of support for the quality of teaching, the quality of faculty, and the financial aid that we offer our students. We have, I'm pleased to say, as a result of that focus, we have now seen NYU drop in 2016 from being among the very highest cost universities in America. 2017, we're down to number 8, and we haven't got the final College Board annual survey yet for this coming year. We expect us to be around 15, 16 out of the top 10, and let's hope we can keep that dropping further. And again, this will continue to be a high priority for my administration, not just in trying to get a handle on the rate of increase and the cost of living in Manhattan, but also some of the structural things that are very much important in the running of a university. And so, of course, keeping tuition costs down costs money, and we have been very focused on improving efficiency, cutting costs in the way we provide education to our students, and this has been a high focus for us. We've also increased very significantly the number of low-cost accommodation options that our students can choose to take if they wish to. Now more than 30% of our total beds are low-cost options at a significant discount relative to others. We've also very much focused on the cost of things like textbooks. We've now got an online tool that our students can use to help find alternatives to expensive textbooks, to find alternative ways of accessing those textbooks, and we think that's going to have a major impact as well. The bookstore has completely changed the way it does business, and we've contracted with a new organization to run the bookstore, and it too is committed to keeping costs down for our students, even as much as between 50 and 75% of the cost of access to some of the academic materials that our students must have for their courses. We've also started to look hard at something rather fundamental to the structure of NYU, which is the time to degree. And we were all rather surprised to discover that 19% of NYU's undergraduates already graduate in less than 4 years. And so we've started now to build structure and, most importantly, academic advising behind that opportunities, not for every student. Some students need time. They need to be sure to get strong foundations in their academic subjects. Other students want and can pass through NYU a bit faster, 3.5 years, 3 years. And of course, that has a profound impact because it means, firstly, less tuition is paid, and secondly, the student enters the workforce earlier, and so there's a double positive effect there. Let me say we've also, NYU's School of Professional Studies in the last month has announced a cost-free option for our juniors and seniors. The School of Professional Studies calls it Professional Edge, and it's an opportunity for all of our juniors and seniors across the university to take SPS courses for free, courses particularly to get them ready, irrespective of what their major might be, to get them ready for the workforce, to get them ready for their job applications, whether it be basic training in computer programming, graphic design, presentation of yourself for job interviews. This is Professional Edge, a wide suite of courses, again, available to all of our students. Affordability will continue as a major priority in the coming years. Science and innovation. I'm a scientist, and for me, one of the great delights at being at NYU is to see the great strength in science that we have here in Washington Square, a little further away on First Avenue with our medical corridor, and of course these days across the East River in Brooklyn with our School of Engineering. It's fascinating. Those of you from outside New York may be less aware of this. It's fascinating to see the way New York City is shifting under our feet. Finance and real estate have been such underpinnings of the New York economy. Well, with artificial intelligence, with automated trading, finance is becoming less of a job-secure career, and the number of people working in finance and real estate are getting fewer and fewer. And you can see it began with Mayor Bloomberg, it's continuing under the current administration, a real focus in this city on tech, on innovation, on the creation of spin-out companies and the attraction of leading high-tech companies to New York City. Already we have a major presence of Facebook here. We have a major presence of Google here. So this, in Manhattan, we're becoming a little bit of a Silicon Alley, as New York likes to call it. Well, and of course, for us at NYU, that innovation comes in a university that is truly in and of the city of New York, whether it be Washington Square over to Brooklyn with the School of Engineering, across to First Avenue, where we have one of the country's leading centers of medical research and clinical care, not only in the medical school and the hospitals, but also NYU has the largest school of dentistry in America. 1 in every 10 American dentists is an NYU alum. We have great strength, and we now are focusing on that and building on that strength. And one of the key places for that strength is the Tandon School of Engineering. Many of you older alumni will remember Brooklyn Polytechnic. Well, Brooklyn Polytechnic a decade ago merged with NYU. It's now become NYU School of Engineering and renamed as the Tandon School of Engineering, thanks to an enormously generous gift from Chandrika and Ranjan Tandon. And the engineering in the 21st century is so critical, so central to everything that we do. And you begin to see in NYU the way in which engineering is starting to connect with so many other parts in teaching, but very especially in research. You would expect it with medicine. You would expect it with physics and chemistry. But we are increasingly seeing, we won't spend a lot of time on this, these are all of the collaborations that the School of Engineering has with the School of Public Service, with the School of the Arts, with the law school. Let me give you an example. Here's a new collaboration between engineering and law. And you only have to open your newspaper every day these days to see another breach of security, another 10 million credit card numbers that have been sent out into the ether. Cyber security and engineering and law are creating a new institute for cybersecurity, a new master's degree of cybersecurity risk and strategy, combining technology and technical expertise with legal training and understanding the character of regulatory control that is so critical in these areas. Many, many examples of collaboration, and a perfect setting for that collaboration has now been provided by this building. And again, many of you at the, who are from Brooklyn may know, I'm desperately trying, by the way, I have lessons every week. I'm desperately trying to acquire a Brooklyn accent. You know, it seemed to me that, you know, as president of NYU, this was one of my deficiencies. My predecessor had such a good one, and I need to somehow work. And here's a perfect example. This is a building that for a decade was empty in Brooklyn. It's the old MTA building on J Street. It's 500,000 square feet. It's the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, of course, MTA. Well, for NYU, at least until we can find a donor who will name it after. Anyone interested, come and see me at the end. But we'll keep those MTA letters because for NYU, this building's becoming media, technology, and the arts. And what we will have is Tandon, computer science, Tisch School of the Arts, Steinhardt School of Culture and Human Development, all working together using technologies like wireless, like virtual reality, game design, all ways in which you bring together technology and creativity. That's now going to be happening in this building, right at the center of the place that many would say is the most exciting place in America, let alone New York City, and that's the borough of Brooklyn. And this is just a shot inside that building. This is one of those wonderful deals. You know, Mayor Bloomberg gave us that building for $1. What a deal. What a deal. It had been derelict for 10 years, and so it won't surprise you. It's cost us about $250 million to renovate it. But it will become a wonderful, open, high-tech center for this kind of collaboration that will have all sorts of consequences in new companies starting, spinning out. Later this month, I will be opening a new incubator in Brooklyn. The School of Engineering already has 3 lively, functioning incubators, so where new companies start and grow and become, we hope, the next Google, the next Facebook. But we'll be opening a 4th incubator in a couple of weeks' time, and that will be focused on something in addition to new technology and new company development. It will be focused on training veterans to be part of the entrepreneurial. And for me, that is exactly the reinforcement of the role of a university. Our job is to be original, to explore new areas of knowledge and technology and come up with things that people have never done before, and NYU is very good at that. But our job as well is to have a social impact, to do good in the community, and we hope the world. We see that in medicine, in new therapeutics. We see it in new ways of teaching. Well, here's a good example of connecting to veterans returning after service abroad, and it's an opportunity for us to connect them to this new world of technology. And here we are, of course, just everyone has to think about new ways of branding. Oh, somehow I've missed that. There, oh, sorry, excuse me. Here we are, that's what it was supposed to do. This is our little, you can see, you'll see, I love the triangle. And here we're connecting Brooklyn and tech and NYU. And we saw what I've come to call the inner triangle, Washington Square, Brooklyn, and First Avenue. And you'll see the triangle motif again. Here's 2 corners of the triangle. Washington Square that you all know well, and many of you will know, of course, NYU Langone Medical Center, as I said earlier, one of the great centers of medical research and teaching in America. Let's move to another priority, diversity. And this is a topic that has been a true priority for me since arriving. Even before I arrived, I participated in the sometimes quite difficult, challenging debates that NYU was having at the end of 2015. I watched on live streaming, sitting in my office in Oxford. It was the middle of the night, by the way, but watching the examples of our students coming forward and talking. And here is a couple of pictures of what have been now, a really extensive institutional conversation about the atmosphere at NYU, about how welcoming we are, how the experience of our students, our faculty of staff, and our staff. And we found that we are wanting. We are deficient in many areas. Our students were encountering situations and comments and a sense of exclusion that, quite frankly, really shocked us all. And I'm very pleased to say NYU, across the institution, is now taking this as a very serious priority, one that is allowing us now in many settings to meet, to talk, to identify areas that we need to improve. This is the Center for Multicultural Education and Programs, the rather wonderful Monroe, France, sitting there on the right-hand side, who oversees that, a place where these kind of conversations and outreach can take place. And I will say that a key part of the conversation at NYU has involved this group of people, the Task Force on Inclusion, Equity, and Diversity. They have sat for the last year and a half. They have now finished their deliberations, presented me with a report that gave a number of very important priorities, increasing funding and space for the Center for Multicultural Education and Programs, creating a response line where students can anonymously, faculty, staff can anonymously report what they feel as experiences of bias or of discrimination. They also made a very strong, that's them again, Charlton McIlwain and Gabby Starr were the chairs of the committee. Gabby, who was the dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, is no longer with us, and it's one of those examples. Gabby has gone on to greater things. She's become the president of Pomona College in California. So one of our jobs at NYU is to send students out into the world, but it's also to send newly minted academic leaders, just like I was sent from Yale to Oxford and now NYU. Well, Gabby's been sent from NYU to Pomona College, is doing great things there. That's the committee. Well, one of their key recommendations was that NYU appoint a new high-level individual who would have responsibility across the university, across the global university, for issues of diversity, inclusion, and equity. And I'm thrilled to say that a month ago, Lisa Coleman arrived and has started work. She's NYU's first chief diversity officer. We recruited her from Harvard. She was doing exactly that same role at Harvard. She is an alumna of NYU. She wanted to come home. She's a New York native. She wanted to come home to be part of this truly diverse, truly distributed university, and to make it better. And to make it better in this setting, this environment. And Lisa will continue her work in the coming year. You know, this is just the kind of slide that presidents do occasionally show, because just to make you think, you know, I don't only stand on stages and give speeches, and the rest of the time I have long naps in the afternoon. You know, recruitment and hiring of new academic leadership is one of the priorities of every university president. Lisa was an example. These are new academic leaders: Phil Harper, the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences; Christine Poggi, Institute for Fine Arts; Jean Jarrett, replacing Gabby Starr as the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences; Neil Guterman Silva, Clay Gillette Maron, but just become the director of the Marin Institute; Julie Mostoff, Liberal Studies; and Russell Kaflish, Courant Institute for Mathematics. Let's move on and quickly global. One of the things that brought me to NYU was this remarkable characteristic. I think, you know, it's true of the city of New York. You know, what two words would you use to define the city of New York? You know, bold and international. Well, NYU reflects its host city. Over many decades, it has been bold and international. And the consequence of that is another triangle, because not only are we in New York City, all of you know we now have campuses in Shanghai and in Abu Dhabi to create what I've started to call the outer triangle. But in addition to the three major campuses, New York, Abu Dhabi, Shanghai, we have 11 other sites of study around the world where our students go to study. NYU London, NYU Paris, NYU Madrid, NYU Florence, NYU Berlin, NYU Prague, NYU Buenos Aires, NYU Accra, NYU Tel Aviv, NYU Sydney, and we even have a site in what I like to call the most foreign, the most hard to penetrate city on the face of the earth today. And of course, I'm referring to NYU Washington, D.C. And no, in truth, that's there for a reason, because of course our students need to be part and need to understand and need to engage in democracy and the changing consequences of democracy. We're seeing that in America, but they also have the opportunity to see that in China. The People's Congress, right now, Xi Jinping. Our students at NYU Shanghai have a deep ringside view of major political changes and shifts taking place. This is a university that is truly global. And I have to confess, and I hope I'm not treading on any political toes here, but I have to confess, when I hear the political rhetoric today in Washington, D.C. about building walls and travel bans, when I hear the Prime Minister of the country I grew up in, Theresa May, talking about withdrawal from the European Union, I'm actually very proud to be part of a university that's not building walls, we're building bridges, and we ensure that our students, are ready for the world, because no matter what the political winds of the moment might be, this is a world that will have an economy for many decades and centuries to come that involves the whole world. Our young people who graduate from NYU will find themselves who knows where in the world. At NYU, they will have become comfortable with living in different countries, working in different countries, speaking different languages, and feeling comfortable with the difference of culture and religion. This is a couple of slides. This is NYU Abu Dhabi, and it sits just outside the city of Abu Dhabi. This is me on top of a sand dune. Every year we have candidate weekends, and where potential candidates, just as we do at New York, come and visit NYU Abu Dhabi, and we take them out into the desert for one of the evenings. They get to see what life is like there. And there is a huge sand dune there, and I did it last year, and you know, I'm absolutely convinced that this sand dune has grown and got steep. I have not got older. It is clear it got harder and harder to get to the top of it, but it's a place, let me just say, you know, there are 1,000 students now at NYU Abu Dhabi. We're heading towards 2,000. There is no national majority. The highest percentage of any nationality is Emirati, which is 14%, 1-4. American, 13%. Now my mathematics will test me. The remaining 73% come from 80 different countries. This is truly an international, multicultural learning environment. The students learn so much from each other. They become so familiar with their peers and the backgrounds of their peers. This is right at the center of the campus and a little oasis of palm trees. But NYU Abu Dhabi is more than just undergraduate teaching. Research of the highest level is going on there. Now, all areas of science, engineering, chemistry. This gentleman, his name is Ponche Nomov. He's one of the leading chemists in the world, and his research group is in NYU Abu Dhabi. His research is there. Last year, over 550 high-quality academic publications came from NYU Abu Dhabi. And that also includes innovation. They're beginning to spin off companies, just as I've talked about New York City and Brooklyn. We're beginning to see that happening in Abu Dhabi as well. Now, this year has been a very significant year because, if I can get this slide to go to the next one. Come on. It's been a very significant year because this year was the first year, there we are. So where NYU Abu Dhabi began to think about more into the future. It's 10 years old. We've had 4 graduation classes, and now different areas of academic focus and excellence and the creation of graduate programs in Abu Dhabi come onto the horizon. It was a very important year for NYU Shanghai because last May, we had the very first graduation ceremony from NYU Shanghai. And let me just very quickly explain. 1,000 students moving over the next 5 to 7 years towards 2,500. The students are 50% Chinese, 50% international. And of the international, about half are American, half from many other countries. And when every first-year student arrives, a Chinese student is paired with an international student as a roommate. So every Chinese student has an international student roommate and vice versa. For the Chinese students, English is compulsory. For the international students, Mandarin is compulsory. So, it was a wonderful ceremony. This is the ceremony, but I have to show you this. Any of you who know the skyline of Shanghai, this is the famous Pearl Oriental Tower. And of course, Shanghai was not going to be beaten by New York, lighting up the Empire State Building in violet. And so they lit this building in violet. It was truly wonderful. They went one better than New York. New York, we only get it in violet for one day. This was lit for 2 days. So we had, it was truly wonderful. NYU violet in one of the biggest and most exciting cities in the world and in China. I won't spend time on this. This is a new site. We have a single building in NYU Shanghai. It's a vertical campus. Shanghai, not unlike Midtown Manhattan, is just full of skyscrapers. And we have a real possibility in the coming years of moving still in the center of Shanghai. Any of you who remember where the Shanghai Expo took place a few years ago, we have an opportunity to move the campus to that site. But as I said, there are 11 other sites around the world. NYU students, now more than 4,000 NYU students travel abroad during their study for at least a semester, and many for more than that. And, you know, as I said, the 11 sites offer them amazing opportunities. Prague on the right-hand side, Accra on the left-hand side, and many opportunities, not just to learn, but also to engage with the community. We work hard to make the experience of our students in the global sites a truly immersive one, so they become familiar with the country and the people that they are living in. Let's move ahead quickly. Sustainability, again, in the 21st century, with climate change, with the challenges of energy costs, NYU, like all other leading universities, is taking a very strong focus to make ourselves more energy efficient, to make ourselves more sustainable, to reduce our carbon footprint in the world. That building I showed you earlier, that will be Platinum LEED. Any of you know that's a badge you get for the highest level of energy efficiency? This will be platinum and be very significant. This is another building. Some of you will have read about it, quite a controversial one. It's now a hole in the ground, a very large hole in the ground, where Cole's Gymnasium used to be on Mercer Street. This will become a new academic building for NYU. There'll be classroom space, there'll be performance space, College of Arts and Science, Tisch, Steinhardt will all be here. But of course, it will also be an extremely efficient, a very green building, and part of that green will be green roofs. And there will be over 25,000 square feet of green roofs, and that truly does sort of reinforce how important, I mentioned technology earlier on, how important it is for us to apply technology to the way we work and the way we use our buildings. And so we, over the past years, have been installing new sensors, new ways of controlling temperature in all of our buildings, including some of the old ones, like the glorious Washington Square North buildings that you all know, and making sure that we are as sustainable as possible in our operations. Now, academic excellence. I could talk for hours. I can hear grumbling tummies out there, so I won't. But academic excellence is perhaps the most distinctive characteristic of NYU's trajectory over these last couple of decades. We've truly become a world-class institution. And we've done so by ensuring that the quality of the faculty, the quality of the experience that our students have, whether it be in the classroom, the lab, or the library, is the highest it can possibly be. And that requires us to be innovative. and to prepare our students for potential careers. And I'll very quickly mention 3 or 4. Here's Stern, a new program in luxury business, a new program in the intersection of business and technology, new online learning opportunities across NYU, Tandon, Steinhardt, medicine, all are focusing significantly on online. Here's one example, an online master's degree from NYU Steinhardt in counseling, school counseling. We also have an online program in teacher preparation. And so again, making sure we are constantly innovating and doing new things. But innovation brings with it the importance of creating continued strong graduates who go and take positions in the world. The Wagner School of Public Service continues now to support and provide professionals to New York City, to cities beyond, and has in recent years been chosen as a very significant center, particularly for the training of professionals for children with mental health issues, and particularly children in distress. Data science, boy, a hot area these days. Understanding big data and the way in which it changes the world. We now have a new program in data science, a new master's program in data science. But again, I'm interspersing high tech with the real world. The Silver School of Social Work, again, constantly supporting the challenging world that 21st century cities present to us, and the role that social workers play in making them positive. And here's Tandon. Tandon's recently been created not only a major Tier 1 center for transportation, innovation, and research. Just about a month ago, we opened a New York City-supported hub at the Brooklyn Navy Yards for virtual reality research. And so, again, Tandon continues to innovate. And I don't have to mention our hospital, because any of you who live in the New York area know that our hospital is rising in the rankings relentlessly, and it's actually expanding its footprint, and has recently merged with Lutheran in Brooklyn and with Winthrop in Long Island to connect the clinical excellence of the NYU Langone programs wider afield. And this, I had to show this because for me, again, it reinforces this role that NYU plays in supporting so many critical areas. I mentioned the College of Dentistry. The College of Nursing this year had a wonderful year. It received the largest gift ever to a school of nursing from Howard Myers, $30 million to support particularly low socioeconomic background students studying nursing, scholarships for low-income students. And the College of Nursing has been renamed the Rory Myers College of Nursing after Howard's wife. And I agree. Now, you might think, why am I showing this rusty, junky piece of thing? Well, some of you might recognize this. I've been talking about innovation and novelty and new things, and NYU is at the cutting edge. But I don't want to leave any of you with the impression that we do not continue to focus and strengthen on core, fundamental studies, studies perhaps that have not changed for 1,000 years. This is something that was dug out of the Mediterranean Sea a few years ago. It's called the Antikythera mechanism, and it is 2,000 years old. It actually shows that the ancient Greeks were able to build complex metal-based machines, and it was used to calculate time, to calculate the changing heavens, and one of the world's leading academics studying this is a professor at NYU called Alex Jones. And Alex has just published a book. And this is the review of a book. of this book, and I give it to you because it has one of the best quotes I have ever come across. So let me just read it. This is a book by Professor Alex Jones on this fundamental piece of the ancient world. And so, standing on the shoulders of 117 years of meticulous giants comes Alexander Jones, who is a professor of history of the exact sciences in antiquity at New York University's Institute for the Study of the Ancient World. That's Alex. And then the review went on to say, it did go on to say, there we are, a job title worth citing in full, not only because of its own flawless exactitude, but because in a world, and many of you will agree with this, a world slowly becoming blacker than a shipworm, it is a cause for joy that such a post at such an institute exists. And that is one, I could have given you 100, 1,000 other examples of scholarship going on at NYU. That was just one, but for me, it reinforced why this all matters. And let me finish, because again, lunch is calling. But NYU, ladies and gentlemen, is in good shape. I am hugely excited about the future. And let me give you some numbers, and we'll go through these very quickly. No, NYU last year had the slowest slide changer in the world. Here we are. NYU, we had 67,000 applications for undergraduate study, more than we've ever had, and the highest among private universities in America. Our average SAT for undergraduates was 1374, higher than it had ever been. The number of Pell Grant recipients, undergraduates from low socioeconomic backgrounds, was 18%. That was more than Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and Columbia. The ranking for student mobility, and this was a study that was published recently and covered much in the New York Times. So the ability of a university to take students in the lowest 20% of the economic stratification of this country and move them through social and economic mobility into the top 20%. NYU was number 4 in the country. 23% of our undergraduates are international, and that's more than any other university in America. We had the number 1 in the world employability ranking from one of the leading rankings in the world, the Times Higher Education. And for those of you Tisch alumni, I don't need to tell you this, number 1 in the world for alumni presence on Broadway. The Sundance films, 35% of the Sundance films were Tisch alums. 96.2% of the class of 2016 were employed 6 months after graduation. So parents, no, we'll worry about the class of 2020. Last year we had 3 Rhodes Scholars. 3 Rhodes Scholars, more than the vast majority of the Ivy League, and tied for the highest in NYU history. Our research, I mentioned our research earlier on. Last couple of years, spending on research, expenditures, this is coming from competitive research grants, 40% in the last 2 years. And we're number 16 in patents. This is relevant for innovation, just below Harvard, just above Penn. Last year, we had a wonderful fundraising year. We raised nearly $650 million, and that was the second highest in NYU history. And of that, $121 million was focused exclusively on student scholarships. And I mentioned, you all know that if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So I'm about to pull my sword out. University presidents love and hate rankings. because how can you take a complex university like NYU and distill it to a single number? But boy, when the rankings are good, we tell you about them. And NYU, for the first time ever, broke into the top 30 of the US News & World Report. There's no logic in rankings because now the Times Higher, which is a big, big deal, we're number 27 in the world. So how we're number 30 in America and number 27? But of course, they wait and they consider different things. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was the last slide. And it just falls upon me to thank all of you, parents in the room, for having the confidence in us to take in your young people and to send them out 4 years from now, perhaps less than 4 years if they're on the Accelerate program, healthy, happy, and employed. And that's, and for all of you alumni, you also can tell the parents in the room your experience and the way in which we hope NYU has given you the foundation to lead happy, productive, contributing lives. And I say it often, but a university is defined by its alumni. You are the reason we exist, because you demonstrate in your lives the focus that we've hoped to give you and the skills and the intellectual strengthening that your period at NYU, whether it was as an undergraduate or a graduate, that we hope that that has been an important foundation for your lives. And so to parents and to alumni, let me, on behalf of all of us at NYU, thank you for your loyalty, thank you for your confidence in us, and most of all, thank you for the support that you give us every day. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and enjoy the weekend. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.